This was shot for a fire calendar, the Vancouver fire calendar. For about 5 years, I shot this and worked with an art director who was actually a firefighter at Henry Prasad, who originally taken some of my workshops, and quite a good photographer himself. So he brought me in to create these calendars, and he was just great to work with because anything we needed he could get from the fire department. It was really fun. So for this one shot, we're shooting out on location. We have to control ambient light. And the problem is with this shot is that we had to do it at 12 noon because of logistics. Like, we had 12 calendar shots to do and one cover shot. So that's 13 shots. We just had 2 days to do the whole thing. And we had like a different firefighter for each shot. So there's a lot of stuff to organize. So there's makeup artists, and each of these shots we could really only take an hour and a half to do each one. So if you look at this, the components in this shot, this is way too much to do in an hour and a half. So I had to be super organized, and I had a lot of assistants. So I think I had about 5 assistants on this shoot. Trouble with the shot, had to be done at 12 noon. It's supposed to look like a night shot because that's when we could get that truck, was at that time. So we had to make it work. So basically what we did, this was before we were doing high-speed sync or hypersync. So I actually shot with a higher aperture, f8, and it was shot at f8 at a 60th of a second, 100 ISO. Okay. Now, for that to work, to make this look dark, we had to find a darker place to shoot. So because Vancouver has all those towers, we just found an old back alley with some cool tiles on it down in around Gastown. And in that area, there was this beautiful old alley with tall buildings all around it, so it blocked all the direct sunlight. The only light that came down was from directly over top from the open sky. So that's all we had to control. And if you look at it, you can see that's not from our lighting. That's a building quite a ways back that's just catching a bit of that light. So we've really super underexposed. We're probably, I don't know, maybe 4 stops below the camera setting. Okay, so we've underexposed the ambient light by 4 stops. All right, and you can see that on him it's even less here where he is. There's more light hitting there than here from the open sky from above. So by finding a location, I'm able to control and create what looks like a night shot. The thing for doing night shooting, to create the illusion of night shooting, is you want to do you basically have a very dark shot. You do lots of backlighting and or side lighting, as you see here. Okay, create lots of shadows. Lighting from the front just doesn't work. So with that in mind, here's how this came together. So once again, I've got the truck far behind him, just the same like we did in the other shot with the building. It's 10 feet behind him. That helps to keep it out of focus. And then I'm a good 30 feet in front of our model, Andrew. He's not really a model, he's an actual firefighter. So I'm 30 feet in the opposite direction. And then I'm using a 163 mil setting on my, or zoom, on my 70 to 200 mil lens. All right, so that once again allows that truck to, because I'm so far away, to loom over him and look rather imposing. Here's the lighting. So he's standing there, my camera, the truck. So as I said, 10 feet, 30 feet, perfect. Main light comes from the side. It's lighting the side of him. It's a 3 by 4 foot softbox. I've put a 40-degree grid on it to choke the light down so it doesn't spread all over the place. And that's perfect. So this also has the added benefit that it focuses the light onto the important part of him, which is his torso and his face and a little bit of his fancy red pants. Okay, now I wanted it to fall off because this is where I want to bring the eye to. So it's all about leading the eye to where you want it to go, separating the subject out from things. Okay, so that's how I'm using my lighting. And I wanted to have I wanted a light source that wasn't super hard edged. So that's why I'm using that 3 by 4 foot softbox, but it's 8-9 feet away from. So a 3 by 4 foot softbox starts to become kind of small relative to a human being when you're doing a full length at that distance. But it's actually okay because you don't notice a lot of the imperfections like you would on a head and shoulder shot, because our subject is full length and is fairly minimized so that there isn't a ton of detail. The other thing you can do if you want this kind of fall off is that instead of pointing the light directly at the subject, you tilt it up like this. So now the light falls off. So the light would then strike his face and his torso, but would start to fall off down his pants. That's another way of doing it. Not as effective as the grid though, because if you have anything, which here it would have worked, but if you have anything like a white ceiling or something, it starts bouncing light all over the place, which you might not want. In this case, I didn't want the light to be bouncing onto the truck and around, because I want to keep this side of the truck fairly dark. Okay. So then we bring in another light. This is coming from behind to create some rim lighting. An incident meter with the back of the meter against his body, the dome pointed this way. I took a reading, and the light coming out of this was set to read 1.5 stops below what the camera was set at. Camera set at f8, so it read f4.5. And how do we get it to do that? We just turned the power up and down and kept taking readings till it read exactly that. All right, so that's a lighting ratio. And you can see what that looks like. Because it's coming from behind and because he's got grease on his skin and water, it creates quite a bright specular highlight on him. So it gives him good separation from the background. Now, we brought another light in because I wanted to light the truck a little bit. The truck, I lit this area and the light falls off towards this side because I wanted it bright against his dark side and then dark against his bright side. So this works, a good way of doing it. So this is set to, I took an incident meter reading, back of the meter here, dome pointed this way towards that light, took a reading, and we made it read 1/2 stop underexposed. So it read f5.6.5. We're shooting at f8, so that will underexpose the white by 1/2 stop. Perfect. As you go further down the truck though, it rapidly falls off in brightness as it gets away from it. And this light is behind our subject, so there's no light spilling on the front of him from it. Perfect. Okay, the last thing I had to do is lighting for the side. This was going just black, no detail. So I added another light back there, which helped pick up some of the smoke and just give us a little bit of detail in the background. So this is just a raw strobe. Well, it's got a 7-inch parabolic reflector that the flash came with, and it's not a super powerful flash. I don't know, it's 600 watts or something like that, and it's firing its light. It's turned down quite a bit, I think, too. It's firing just like this. It's probably actually further down the truck and closer to the truck. So my diagram's not totally accurate, but anyhow, you can see what that creates down the side here. So perfect. We've got him. We've made him stand out because he's lit, he's sharp, everything else is soft. Everything else is dark. So we've got great separation, and we've got great muscle lighting going here because we're not lighting him from the front. Okay, we're strafing the light across the side of him. So we're doing cross light. So that light is coming from the side. So we're pushing the shadows across his body. If you use frontal lighting, it pushes the shadows behind, so you lose a lot of shadow form. So it creates very flat looking lighting, and you can make a nice muscular looking guy like this look like a wimp. And you don't want to do that. The other thing is specular highlights. We grease his body down so that we get the specularity showing up, so that he looks like he's been, hauling his big hose around all day, and he's hot and sweaty from doing that all day. So the trick to controlling these specular highlights is how big your light source is and how far away it is. If you have a big light source in close, it creates great big specular highlights that are low in intensity. As you back it further away and then adjust the power for the loss of light, those specular highlights get smaller and brighter. The other thing that affects it as well is the actual surface quality. Now, someone's flesh, like mine, is not very reflective. Like it's not particularly shiny. It's got a kind of a rough surface to it. So where you get a specular highlight on it, it starts to break it up. But as you get hot and sweaty and the body oils start to come out, it starts to create a smoother surface, so you get these like glare or hot spots starting to show up. Okay? So if you put some makeup on, and make it more matte looking, then that specular highlight starts to spread out over a larger area, covers a greater area, and appears, less bright because the energy's been spread over a larger area. So in this case, we're making the subject surface more efficient for reflections, okay, because we're creating a smoother surface. So we have rubbed, I use olive oil rather than baby oil because it's more, it's a healthier alternative. And then we just spritz with water afterwards. And the amount of oil and water that we use is one of the controls we have of how big and how bright the specular highlights appear, okay? And so it's those three things. It's the size of the light source, the distance of the light source, and the surface quality. Is it a smooth surface, a super smooth surface, or is it a rough surface?